And this is a great pleasure to have Harvin Gupta with us, who is the Head of Commercial Partnerships at Scope 3. Hi, Harvin, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Kinga, and thank you very much for having me be part of Mediaspace. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. We are all very excited about the next week's event, which is going to be the Q1 Leadership Club London roundtable, and the mixer right after that, where the topic will be the Agentic AI advertising space, where you are one of the leading companies. And as the keynote speaker, we are very excited to learn from you and your group of companies and this whole initiative that is going to practice right now. So as a sort of a teaser for the event, I would like to ask a couple of questions, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do it.
Thank you. So everyone asked what agentic AI advertising means. So can you share the definition that you use, and also how does agentic AI advertising fit into the digital advertising ecosystem, or how does it disturb it?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know about you, but I've started to use AI in almost every part of my life. And even just maybe last year, I was using it to make memes and, jokes. Whereas now it's a fundamental part of how I do everything from planning holidays through to writing emails, managing my calendar. I don't think we've seen that level of disruption and adoption in digital advertising fully yet. And I think that's what's coming next. So what we've seen is companies that have built bits of AI onto their existing platform. What I'm really excited about and what we're doing at Scope 3 is basically asking ourselves the question, what would happen if we completely reinvented digital advertising from the ground up to be AI first? So I think what that looks like is, rather than having humans speaking to other humans or technology that is somewhat automated, what happens if we actually have AI agents that are responsible for doing the buying, the selling, the reporting, the optimization? So what happens if we start to really build this industry from the ground up to be agentic? Now, when I talk about agentic, does that make sense to you? Is that a term that you're familiar with? Kinga, you're on mute.
I was on screen, on mute, sorry, typical screen mistake. So yeah, you can't be experienced enough these days. Yeah, but if you want to explore this a little bit and put it into context, how you want to invent this learning from the past mistakes and doing something great, that would be interesting.
So first, let me say what I mean by an agent or an AI agent. So, because not everyone will be familiar with that term. I think it's very much starting to enter our vocabulary, but it's probably worth explaining. So for me, when I use ChatGPT, let's say, and I ask it, where should I go on holiday? And ChatGPT says, oh, have you considered going to Turkey? It's very sunny this time of year. That's me using AI, but it's not agentic. Because if I want to then say, okay, I want to go to Turkey, I want to book the holiday, I do it all myself. So it's kind of an answers engine. It answers my questions, but then it stops there. When we talk about agents, we're talking about something much more powerful. So if I said to an agent, where should I go on holiday? It could come back and say, I recommend Turkey. And then I'd say, okay, let's do it. The agent might look at my calendar and he'll come back and say, well, you're free this week in March. Does that work for you? And I say, yes. It might then go and look to see where I have air miles and say, okay, I recommend you use your air miles with this company to book the flight. You've actually got enough to go first class. Well, I don't, but I can dream. And then it says, okay, book it. It maybe suggests a hotel. It books the hotel for me. It maybe even thinks about, how am I going to get to the airport? Books me an Uber to turn up at the right time. So rather than it just being an answers engine where it's telling me, go to Turkey, it's actually saying, okay, you're ready to go. I've booked your flights. I've booked your hotel. I've booked your Uber. What else can I do? So we're going from just offering a simple answer to actually doing work. So what we envisage the future of advertising to look like is every part of the ecosystem has an agent that represents them. So by this, what I mean is a brand or an advertiser, an agency, they will have a buying agent, and they will tell that buying agent, here's what I want you to do. Here's my budget. Here are my KPIs. Maybe here's some historical campaign data of what's worked and what's not worked. Here's my audience data. Here's my brand safety guidelines. Here's my creative strategy. So it's going to train this agent on the outcomes that they're looking for, what success for that campaign looks like, and what constraints they have. Constraints could be targeting or budget. So that is the buyer's agent. On the supply side, publishers will have seller agents. So they'll train their agent on, here's my media, here's the products that I sell, here are my offerings that I make available. It might be homepage takeovers, it might be run of site, it might be something bespoke, but they will list out all of the products that they can make available to the market. And there'll be other types of agents as well. So, for example, data providers might have their own agents, optimizers and outcomes, retail media, all of these different constituents parts might have their own agents. And what we envisage is that the buying agent will communicate with the sales agent and say, here's my brief, can you help me? And the sales agent will use its artificial intelligence to map that brief to products and say, you're trying to launch a new product. Maybe a homepage takeover is the best for you. Or we have an audience segment that really matches your target audience. They'll put together a brief and send that brief back to the AI, to the buyer's AI agent, which will then say, okay, I like it, or actually, maybe I want to spend more with you. Can you do me something a bit more cost effective? Once they've agreed, they can go ahead and book that campaign. Now, one of the things that happened to facilitate this is the launch very recently of a new protocol, which is called Ad Context Protocol, or AdCP for short. And AdCP, for me, is really important in unlocking the agentic future, because what it does is it gives us a protocol or a language, a common way for these different agents to communicate with each other. So now that we've got an open source protocol, I expect things to happen quite quickly as we move towards this kind of world of agents buying and selling from each other. Did that all make sense?
Yeah, and this conversation reminds me when we were in the 90s, I don't know where you were, already working, and we try to explain what the internet is, and we can book a movie ticket, for example, via something that is not in our hands. And this is how you just explained what this new thing is. So that's
Oh,
very
yeah.
interesting. And
And I've got that level of excitement about it. I think AI and AI agents in general could be, as big as and as disruptive and as big a change to our world as, the internet was. So it's something huge, and it's a really exciting time to be working right on the cutting edge of this.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I can understand. And I'm very excited as well and have millions of questions, but obviously this is just a teaser and we will continue in person in London next week. But just a couple of short questions. One question, going back to the explanatory part, how do these agents meet? Is that a marketplace or any space where this all happens? And the other question is how the ecosystem works and the value chain, how long is it going to be?
Yeah. No, both really good questions. So first of all, what we have is the open source protocol, and anyone can build on top of this. Scope 3, the company that I work for, we're building one of the very first marketplaces. So we're working directly with brands and agencies to help them enter this agentic future and have brand agents. And then we're building a marketplace where buyers and sellers will be able to interact. They'll be able to send data and communicate with each other, set campaigns live, send the reporting data and the clearing. So we're building a full agentic marketplace. So that was your first question. Second question,
Okay.
supply chains. I think this is something really integral to the marketplace we're building with RTB. And I know me and you have had many conversations in the past about how long RTB supply chains can be. We have a lot of there's a real lack of transparency in that ecosystem, and we have a lot of resellers, we have a lot of intermediaries. One of the things I really like about this new marketplace is it's very direct. So in terms of the value chain, you have the buyer, the advertiser, they're using their brand agent. The publisher has a sales agent, and they also have an ad server. Normally in display, that's Google Ad Manager. in CTV that's something like free will. And that's the entirety of the tech stack that's required to have this transaction take place. So what's happening is once the discovery phase is over, the buyer and the seller have agreed to what it is that they actually want to buy from each other. Then the campaign is booked as a direct campaign in the publisher's ad server. So what that means is these kind of very complicated topics like SPO no longer really, we don't have to spend so much brain power thinking about things like this. Why? Because you can't really get more direct than a campaign directly in the publisher's ad server. And the buyer can clear directly with the publisher. So there we have complete transparency, complete accountability, and we've successfully managed to remove a lot of the intermediaries that are adding to a lot of the complexity, fees, carbon, all of these things that exist in RTB.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for mentioning the carbon side and sustainability thing. We will discuss that as well. I don't want to go into that. Also very big topic. So just wanted to ask, what's your single piece of advice for those who are not familiar with agentic AI advertising? And obviously they should join Mediaspace if they are in London, but what's your advice first?
Yeah, so there's an organization that's very new called the Agentic Advertising Organization, the AAO. And if you Google that and go to the website, there's actually a chatbot on there called Addy, which is an AI chatbot. And Addy, I've been finding is a fantastic resource because it's able to answer questions that you have. It's kind of trained on all of the documentation that we have, all of the reference architecture, all of the kind of technical things, but it's able to answer questions in a way that, you know, a non-technical person can understand. And because it's a chatbot, we're all used to working with things like ChatGPT or Claude now. So I think it's a familiar way of working. So I would encourage people that want to get started and just be like, hey, what's this guy talking about? This sounds interesting, but I want to know more. Go to the Agentic Advertising Organization website, look at Addy, interact with it. That's the first thing. The second thing I'd encourage people to do is actually to get their hands dirty, because one of the things that we can do now, which wasn't really possible last year, is we can vibe code. So we can actually, if you go to the website, go to the GitHub, you can actually get a reference architecture. Now that sounds scary, but you can take that reference architecture as a link, put it into something like Claude Code or Cursor, and actually have it build an agent for you. So what that means is without actually writing a single line of code, you can start to build a pretty decent proof of concept. And for me, the best way of learning is to get your hands dirty and to actually start doing things. But the barrier to entry is much lower than it ever has been before because we can have AI do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. And for me, that means that the cycle of going from not understanding to becoming an expert, that learning curve is much shallower than it's ever been before. So I'd encourage people, yeah, go to the website, get your hands dirty.
Thank you. We will share the website address in the post. I think that's the easiest for anyone who want to go into this. And I fully understand with and agree with you that we have to just do things and try for ourselves. So thank you so much for your time today. Looking forward to meeting you next Wednesday in London. And we've got a few tickets left. If someone is interested, please drop me an email or any kind of message for an invite. And let's meet and learn more about agentic AI together. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
sounds good. I'll see you next week.
Cheers.